Kate's in the Kitchen, and you're invited too. I'm Kate, and this is my kitchen. It's back to school in Las Vegas already, but it is just the middle of August. Still plenty of beautiful, fresh summer produce. So that's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to stuff all of these with a delicious meat and pasta mixture. I've got 2 zucchini that I just took off the very top and then scooped out most of the flesh. Smaller zucchini. I've got 1 bell pepper that I seeded, and then 2 tomatoes that I took out the core and most of the flesh. I did actually throw that flesh into the sauce for this. So that's the vegetables we're going to use. I got 1 package of Italian sausage links and I took them out of the casings, but you can just buy the loose. You want a little bit over a pound. I've got some homemade marinara. It was just a jar of passata or tomato puree, some fresh basil, and some fresh garlic. And I left it kind of loose right now because I'm going to need some of it for the filling. Okay, then I've got about 3 ounces of fresh spinach. Now when I put it in this bowl, it was overflowing. I chopped it, it's about half the bowl. By the time I saute it, it's going to be down to maybe half of this. I've got 1 cup of orzo, which is a very small pasta that looks like rice grains. I've got salt and pepper, of course. I've got 3/4 of a cup of fresh grated Parmesan. I've got a half a cup of fresh grated Asiago. And I've got a half a cup of mascarpone. And then I've got 1 shallot that I already diced and sauteed just a few minutes in some butter. I've got about 1.5 tablespoons of chopped cherry peppers or peppadews, whichever you have, something to give it just a teeny bit of heat. I've got 2 tablespoons of fresh chopped basil. I've got about 1 tablespoon of fresh chopped parsley. And then I've got a 1/2 teaspoon of ground fennel. You can go up to a full teaspoon if you like. A pinch of red pepper. A teaspoon of fresh minced rosemary. And about 1 tablespoon of fresh minced thyme. So I'm going to get going first with the orzo. Orzo only takes normally about 9 minutes to cook. I'm going to give it a little jump start before I put it in the filling. So I'm going to put it into a saucepan and on the stove. I have my marinara. I heated it up, and as I said, it's a little loose. I'm just going to put enough in here basically to cover the orzo. And the heat of that is just going to give a little jump start to the orzo, but really it's going to cook in the oven as the vegetables release their moisture, and that's all you have to do for the orzo. I'm going to saute the Italian sausage. I'm breaking it up into little pieces because it'll cook faster. And then after it's cooked and cooled, I will actually break it into even smaller pieces if necessary. So I'm just going to continue breaking this up. While the sausage is browning, I'm going to saute my spinach as well. I've got a hot pan. I'm going to throw in a little bit of olive oil and throw in my spinach. You can use frozen spinach as well, but just make sure you thaw it, drain it, and squeeze out as much of the water as you can. This is only going to take a minute. I'm not going to fully cook this. I just want to wilt it, and then I'll cool it and chop it up even finer to go into our mixture. That's about 30 seconds, and it's already wilted just fine. I'm going to turn that off. I've got some wilted spinach. I'm going to chop this up a little bit finer. Just give it a quick chop. I just want smaller pieces so it mixes in with the meat and the orzo and the spices and cheese and everything. And that looks pretty good. I'm going to take the spinach and put it in my bowl. Try to get all of it. I'm going to add the mascarpone. The spinach is still slightly warm, so it should blend into this fairly well. I'm just going to kind of mash it around and get that thoroughly incorporated, and then we'll move on. You can see that the cheese is nicely incorporated. At this time, I'm going to add a little bit of salt and pepper. You don't need much salt because there's salt in the cheese and there's salt in the sausage. Don't need a lot of black pepper because we are adding the red pepper flakes and the peppadews. Give that a quick mix. And then I'm going to incorporate my 2 grated cheeses, the Parmesan and the Asiago, and thoroughly combine that as well. Now I'm going to add all the seasonings and herbs and things. I've got my shallot and the peppadew, my basil, my fresh parsley, fennel, the red pepper flakes, the rosemary, and the thyme. And I'm going to give that a nice thorough mix. And then I'm going to let you see what that looks like before we go on to the next step. Here's our mixture. This actually, if you didn't go any further, makes a great filling for stuffed mushrooms. Okay, let's go onward. I'm going to add the orzo, which has soaked up all that tomato sauce that I put in there, the marinara. And we're just going to combine that with the cheese mixture. Looks like Italy, red, white, and green. All right. Here's our mixture of the pasta and the cheeses and all the herbs. And then here's our Italian sausage. Now, when it's cool, if it's too chunky, go in there with your fingers and break that up. And in it goes. I'm going to try to skip that oil you see there. I'm going to try not to get too much of that in there. You could drain this in a colander or a sieve, but I think I'll be fine. This is going to be a very meaty filling, not a lot of filler of rice or whatever. So you can see I got a bit of fat there. I'm going to set that aside. That's what the final mixture looks like. I'm going to go ahead and spoon this into the vegetables. I've got the oven preheating to 350 degrees. I removed the vegetables from the baking sheet for a minute. I'm going to put in just a little bit of the marinara at the bottom to keep them from sticking. Yeah, got a little bit of my herb left in there. That looks good. Then I'm going to place my vegetables back in. And I'm going to fill them right here in the baking pan. And I'm actually going to pack it down in there so it's nice and full. So I'll continue filling these and be back in a moment. You may have noticed that for the zucchini, I kept the stem end on. That's just to keep it the shape of a boat so that the filling doesn't leak out the end. And there's the tomato. You can see it's hollowed out, just a shell. And I'm just going to fill that up as well. And again, I'm going to pack it in pretty tight. The tomato will give off juices, as will the other vegetables, which will help cook the orzo and keep the meat a little more moist. And then I'm going to put these in the oven for about 15 to 20 minutes, at which point I will check them. I want the vegetables to be tender but not mushy. And then I'll sprinkle a little extra cheese on top and broil them just long enough to make that cheese bubbly and golden. So, there we have all our stuffed vegetables. I'm going to give each of them a little bit more of the sauce as well, just to ensure we get that orzo nice and cooked and keep everything moist. and into the oven these will go. I'm going to cover these with foil for the first 15 minutes. That'll keep the heat in and it'll actually help steam the vegetables. And then we'll finish them off with the foil off. You may have noticed I only used about half the stuffing into those vegetables. Still got quite a bit left. So I'm going to make a small lasagna. I'm going to start by putting a little bit of the leftover sauce into the bottom of my pan. Got a little piece of herb there. And then I'm going to lay in a couple of these oven-ready lasagna sheets. They fit just perfectly into this square cake pan. And give them a little bit more sauce. And then I'm going to put on a layer of the filling. So yes, we're going to have pasta in our lasagna filling. We've got the orzo in there, but it's going to be good, I promise you. So I'm going to use about half of what's left. And then I've got some provolone cheese that I have in the refrigerator, so I'm going to give it some of that. Just, I think 2 slices on the layer will be fine. Just kind of break that to fit it in. Okay, and then I'm going to give it a little more sauce. And back to the lasagna sheets. 2 of those. I'm going to press it down just a little, level it out. A little bit of sauce. The rest of our filling. Oops, a little messy here. Let's set that aside. And let's just scrape this out. And we'll spread it around. The rest of my cheese. I'm going to take all these little bits that broke off and throw them in there. Okay. And then one more layer of lasagna and top it with some more sauce. And I'm actually going to put this into the refrigerator and have it for dinner tomorrow. So that looks beautiful. I'm going to give it a little bit of grated Parmesan. And I'm going to cover it with foil and put it in the refrigerator. And it's only going to get better sitting in the refrigerator because all the flavors are going to come together even more. That's what you do with leftovers. My stuffed vegetables have been in the oven for about 20 minutes. I'm going to open up the foil and give them a poke with a knife to see how tender they are. The initial bake time of 25 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes, I'm sorry, really depends on how dense these vegetables are and how much water they have. So mine definitely need another 10 minutes. The vegetables are nice and tender, but they still hold their shape. I'm going to top this with some grated Parmesan. And I'm going to put it back into the oven under the broiler until this cheese is bubbly and golden. Here we have our beautiful stuffed vegetables. I've got a little leftover parsley and basil. I'm just going to give that a little sprinkle. And I'm going to serve this with some crusty bread, some sauteed mushrooms, and maybe a glass of wine. Hope you make this. Hope you enjoy. There we have our beautiful stuffed vegetables. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you like what you saw, please share this, become a subscriber, and give me a thumbs up. Have a great day.